Hey friends, it's Soul, and we're back with some Horrific Vision commentary. This is it though. This is the full clear of Orgrimmar while wearing 5 masks. I didn't even do 4. I just skipped it. Go me. But anyway, let's talk about the build. My Protection Paladin's item level jumped to 459 with a mix of gear from Heroic Ny'alotha, some world content, some Horrific Vision content, and crafted pieces from blacksmithing and engineering. I'm rocking Twilight Devastation as my only corruption affix. My cloak rank is at 12, my neck is at level 80, I'm using Crucible as my main, Null Dynamo for defense, Strength of the Warden, mostly for corruption resistance, and Suppression for some extra run speed and haste. And I'm pretty much geared with haste in mind. So the faster I attack, the more everything that I can do, including throwing Twilight Devastations or TDs. For talents, I use Holy Shield for simple defense, Crusader's Judgment for single target damage, Fist of Justice for whatever spells that I can't kick, Spell Warding for extra immunity, Unbreakable Spirit for shorter defensive cooldowns, Judgments of Light because I don't want to snare enemies, and Righteous Protector to help reduce the cooldown on Avenging Wrath. I'm using every buff that I can get a hold of too, including a stamina flask, ghastly goulash, and I have a supply of kebabs and unbridled fury pots. And I have coffee at my desk. I really needed it for this run. It's important though to note that my performance is based on having a rank 12 cloak. At rank 15 and above, your throughput won't need to be as high because you're going to be losing that much less sanity. And of course, if your cloak rank happens to be lower, then you're going to need that much more throughput and so on and so forth. And well, away we go. When I did this run, I was kind of desperate. This is my last turn for pretty much the week or until Friday or something like that. And I failed a run just the other day. So I was pretty nervous about this one. I was still kind of asleep. As you know, I stream in the morning and this is coming from stream footage. But yeah, I was pretty nervous about this one because this is just kind of one of my little personal goals. This is one of my goals in WoW to achieve things that that I consider to be difficult. So anyway, enough with that stuff. Let's just go ahead and get started. So I did decide to go with a different routine that I never tried before. I was going to try going for Rexxar first instead of going for Gronicide. So we'll see how this goes. But as always, I start off hard, pop cooldowns, go for the shaman, go nuts. Of course, it gets kind of suppressed by the desynchronized thing that we're dealing with. Here we're dealing with desynchronized and promised power, which I was able to take small advantage of throughout this area here. But for the most part, I'm just relying on the high that I get from the cooldowns. My gift of the Titans had went off, and I do apologize that I don't have sound for this one because I used stream footage for this. So I don't think you want to hear me talking anyway. But I feel like I started off pretty strong. I'm able to pretty much not care about most of the attacks here, but now the nervousness starts to set in because now my routine is a little weird. Oh, the shield bearer is a little bit lower on the slope. Am I going to get the extra adds? How long is it going to take to kill them? But thankfully, since I'm pulling them a little bit early, I'm able to zoom right over here to the end and just go ahead and click and open the door. But with the shield bearer and the shockwave, that's not something that I want to deal with. I don't want to deal with any surprises otherwise. And I opt to kill these guys beforehand, before I move on to the next area, since I happen to be in one of the friendlier areas. The other part was, and you're about to see this in just a moment, I go ahead and eat a kebab now. I decided to try out the timing and see if I'm able to use a kebab later at a time that's good for me. So hopefully this will pay off. But I do get some of my sanity back. And I also kind of figure that, you know what, maybe there will be a chance, even though I get 200 sanity back from killing the elite that I'm about to encounter, I might run into a mistake. I might lose a little bit of extra sanity. And so, why not? Why not try to be a little bit more careful than usual? So the usual routine, I have the boss face me until he shoots out his orb, because as you can see, the orb bounces in that same direction over and over again. So you want to ideally just run through the boss as opposed to sidestepping it, or even worse, backing away from it. Even then though, because of Scorch Feet and Enemophobia, I have to jump. And unfortunately, the jump that you make from Scorched Feet doesn't count towards getting rid of the bug debuff. At any rate, though, I'm able to take care of this guy without any problem. And it's really important to get a good handle of how to use Scorched Feet to your advantage, rather than think of it as just a disadvantage. You're able to leap pretty far and get away from crazy things, create distance for yourself for a little bit. In this case, I jumped a little bit too far away from the Dominator, farther than I would have liked. I had to go back and re-engage, and for some reason, I don't know why this tentacle never pulled. I pulled the other mobs, but apparently not the tentacle, so that made things a little bit confusing, and it slowed me down just a smidge. Thankfully, though, TDs tend to come at pretty good times. Well, if I'm lucky, that is. As you can see, this tentacle is being pretty stubborn. I try to blow it up, hoping that a TD would go off. It doesn't go off. I try to stun it, but then it gets away beforehand. So in this case, even though it wasn't quite dead yet, I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and go for opening or busting down these barricades. Once again, I took up the old habit of not caring about the potions, which I really should have, and I really do recommend that you take a look at that. Instead, I just go back to my usual habits, going straight for the Dominator, interrupt the Touch of Abyss, and otherwise blow this thing the heck up. The swirls that these guys drop, they don't cause any sanity damage, but they do cause, just straight up damage and sometimes knockbacks. So it's still important to get out of it. But for the purpose of making sure that you want to avoid things with hot feet in mind. Well, I'm just kind of jumbling up words, but there are things you just don't need to care about. I think that's what I was trying to say. Cool. So with those mobs taken out, you can see on my bars, maybe you're familiar with them by now, maybe not, but my kebab is available. So my gamble did pay off. The timing does work in such a way that right before you get in here, you can pop a kebab, and then right before you encounter the area boss here, you can pop one more for just a little bit of a boost. Because ideally, I want to not have to pop an orb for this. So here goes my precious few seconds. Thankfully, Entomophobia doesn't function while you're in combat. Oh, I'm sorry, while you're out of combat. And from here, it's game time. Pop cooldowns, use a potion, and go nuts on this guy. I try to use the jump to my advantage here. So whenever the Void Torrent is going off, I use the jump to get a little bit more of a boost. But the position is a little bit funny, and you really want to be careful that you don't get caught on like a post or some sort of ground effect. Here, I believe it's going to be the next shield where I pop an immunity, so that way I don't take any extra sanity damage. For safety, of course. Yeah, so here's the shield. And yeah, here I pop Spell Warding to avoid taking the damage. It doesn't hurt me, nor does it afflict any sanity damage on me, which is a nice boost. I do end up doing a little bit less damage than I would have liked on this guy. Not too many procs. The crits weren't all that great. So I'm trying to buy a little bit more time by kind of kiting this guy over, opening the door while it dies. And then off to Rexxar. 3 orbs left. I'm at approximately 2/3 of my sanity. And here I'm going to do a trick for the very first time. It's something that I discovered thanks to someone on stream who informed me, and then I was exploring on my priest while I was doing a run here. I kind of wasted his run, but oh well, that's just kind of how it goes. Anyway, we'll take on Misha really quick. I also have to deal with both Haunting Shadows and Leaden Foot, so my movements are going to be incredibly restricted. But it needs to be I need to have enough movement available to get out of the fear that Haunting Shadows causes. It takes a while for that to go off. That's not it right there, but it looks like a similar circle. So your behavior is still going to stay the same. So there's a circle right there. You just want to make sure that you tiptoe out of it. It only takes a second or two. So just make sure that you have your run speed available. Sorry about that. So here we go with my little trick where I just run into this blackened area, and I run all the way to Rexxar, like right away. So there are some risks. As you can see, I'm taking pretty heavy damage here, and I'm kind of stumbling through, but I do eventually make it, and I skipped everything. I do skip pretty much everything. Of course, though, I still have only half sanity. And ideally, I want to encounter Rexxar with a full bar because I'm going to be taking a lot of sanity damage. You'll also notice that the ads that are back there, they're right next to where the totem is going to be. That's something I didn't quite know at the time. So I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But here I am, I'm popping an orb anyway, so I don't exactly save a whole lot of time. It just prevents me from making additional mistakes. But here I pop everything, including drums. So I pop my Bloodlust, I go nuts, which I kind of regret a little bit. I think by popping everything right away, I do some extra damage to Rexxar, which is great, but that also means that he deploys his boars a little bit earlier too, which means that these guys are going to be popping void quills, and I can't interrupt everything. I'm trying to DPS the boss. I'm trying to stun and interrupt the boars, and so things can get really hectic, especially seeing the Shaw out. Things can get pretty crazy very easily, and as you just saw, my sanity was very, very low towards the end there. And then here I am. I need to clear out this pack over here, and I want to try to do it quickly because, well, my sanity is starting to run pretty low. It's very difficult for me to pop a kebab here. I think I'm going to be trying it though, because as you can see right there, the fear just went off. But I think it looks like I opt. I don't remember this too well, obviously, but I have to go ahead and kill these ads first. Thankfully, they go down very quickly, which means I can take this, fly back over, and thankfully sanity isn't lost during this sequence. Yeah, it looks like what had happened is I wanted to eat, but I lost. But I think I lost that chance, so I ended up wasting 100 sanity from the food that I ended up not eating, which kind of sucks. I believe very shortly I'm going to deploy an orb here in this area, which is very unusual. I mean, part of it is because I ended up going a different route altogether. So now it looks like I'm about to spawn that extra mob. But I do at least manage to restore all of my sanity back. And at least I'm in an area where I'm not losing a whole lot of sanity passively. And so far, we're looking pretty good. I have 2 orbs, full sanity. I'm about to go encounter an elite that will restore my sanity as well, as long as I don't, screw up. Kebab is on cooldown, though. And we'll go ahead and engage this guy. As usual, you want to try your best to make cooldowns available for these big guys, especially because of their sanity draining attacks. Even if you're particularly skilled at dodging some of these mechanics, there's always a chance for some sort of freak accident to happen. So anything that you can avoid, try to avoid it. Gift one off, which lets me relax for just a little bit, and now we wait. Here would be a good time to use a kebab if I happen to be very low on sanity, but as you can see, my bar is pretty full. And now we're waiting. Little things like that that add a little bit of tension, because it's like, come on, please don't bug out. No bugs in this run though. We're good. So I opt to go for these 2 packs, just like in my previous run, where I want to be just a little bit more careful. The damage can get pretty high here, and I know that I have plenty of life. I have 815,000 life at this point, so I can relax, but I don't. It's always better to be a little bit paranoid. See how that jump let me jump over my own poop? It's kind of cool whenever it goes off the way that you want it to. So I'll go ahead and take the second pack along with the shaman. And something that just kind of happened by accident, I believe it's going to happen in just a moment, where I'm going to move a little bit, my hot foot, it made me jump over, and I actually ended up aggroing the next pack as well. It worked out though. This is something that worked out in my favor. But of course, you always want to be careful that you don't jump into other packs, especially if you don't intend to. Especially if there's instances where you might run into things like tentacles, things that are more difficult to kill because they might be dodging or otherwise avoiding damage. But now I have all the packs killed except for the ones in front of the area boss that I usually try to skip. I'm still at around 2/3 sanity. And this is a boss that you can easily screw up on during Scorched Feet. Because of the leaps, you don't want to end up leaping into one of those big waves that causes a stun and causes a lot of sanity damage. At this level, it does about 100 sanity damage, and since you only have about 575, that's a big deal. I got really, really lucky on this run, though. I was able to move pretty minimally without having to worry too much about these waves. In fact, the first orb that went out, it went out right at my feet, so I didn't have to move at all. That's why it looks like this fight went incredibly smoothly. So now I'm about at 4/5 of my sanity bar. I got away really well from this Valley of Spirits run. And now we're going to go to the last area with plenty of sanity, 2 bars remaining. I'm sorry, 1 orb remaining. But I'm still looking pretty good. So of course I'll grab this ad and I'll try to grab it with authority this time. I forgot for a moment that that we have to deal with Leaden Foot because I smashed through the Rexxar area without really having to worry about the mechanics. So in this case, I opt to pull these packs as well as the pack with the tentacles. And this can always be a little bit difficult. You're constantly moving, so not all the time will you be able to get all your attacks off. Especially the tentacles, they tend to be a little bit back there, so they're not getting nearly the kind of damage that they should. Unfortunately as well, TDs aren't going off to get some free damage in. I'm just kind of going at this alone. But thankfully, when my Gift of the Titans went off, I'm like, okay, cool, let's go ahead and pull a little bit more. I got plenty of haste going. I can take I can take a little bit more abuse, but it is pretty bad. You can see here I'm getting stunned quite a number of times. But I did use my Lay on Hands just in the nick of time without having to use my extra life. Because remember, I do have my extra life available too from the Titanic research. But they finally go down. That was that turned out to be a pretty bad pull. As you can see, even that tentacle happened to be up. And it dodged my TD. Well done, tentacle. I hate you. So now with my sanity low, I decided to take a gamble. My fear didn't go off yet, so it's not a good time for me to try using a kebab. I could easily waste it. So instead, I just kind of go nuts. I believe I even use a cooldown pot and try to get this guy down as quickly as possible. At only 55% life or around 50% life, I'm not looking very good at all. I'm just trying to do my best to avoid taking some extra sanity damage. Unfortunately, though, I do end up using my extra life. And there it is, my extra life procced. But I get my sanity back. And with that guy dead, my sanity is restored to full. Go me. The clock is still because Gift of the Titans procced. And I'm going to bum rush it all the way over to the next guy. So with only a couple seconds left of this, I still have this pack along with the tentacle. So in this case, thankfully that TD didn't aggro the guy. But I opt to once again gamble and just go for this guy. Because for the most part, the packs here, they only really afflict damage. They don't do anything that's really a big deal. The exception would be if the tentacle happens to go off while I get thrown. That would be a really bad combination and something that I would have a hard time getting out of. Fortunately, I do have different things like immunities, Blessing of Freedom, among other things that I can pop in order to get out of it if things really hit the fan. So that was kind of my mindset when going through here. This guy does take a while to take down, though. Even though he only has 1.2 million life or so, I just happened to not get any good procs off, so it took a little bit longer than normal for him to go down. But he does, and I'm still at around 2/3 or so sanity. So now it's time to go for the last guy, and I decide to gamble one more time by using a kebab here. I wasn't quite sure if there was a fear that had went off, but thankfully I was able to get the sanity back just in time. So here we go. My cooldown pot is just about ready. I think I'll pop it sometime during this encounter. But again, just try to pop as much as I can. So I still have one orb left. I just want to make sure that I don't make any unnecessary mistakes here. I have no extra lives left. I just got to try to bring this guy down and hopefully get another Gift of the Titans proc during this fight. That way I can just kind of go ham. Fortunately, though, I'm able to just kill this guy without it for the most part. Except for that stun. But thankfully, my gift went off at the same time. So that saved me at least 100 or so sanity. That probably would have been bad if I let that go off without Gift of the Titans. But this is it. You can see I'm like a little bit excited now. It's like, all right, this is it, guys. One more to go. And to be honest, the Rexxar fight definitely was the most hectic out of all of them. I mean, I had a full sanity bar, all cooldowns, bloodlust, and I still just barely made it through. So at this point, you're kind of coming down from it, but you just don't want to lose focus. You still want to be incredibly paranoid about conducting this final run. So here I seek to target the boars first and try to blow them up while my orb is going off, so that way any sanity damage that I do take is going to be instantly restored. So here I go, just blowing up the boars. Boars just need a little bit more work, and now it's just a one-on-one fight. So you guys know how these mechanics work at this point, right? It's just now I have to deal with 3.5 million life, which is no small feat. This is a lot of life to deal with. And I'm sure, obviously for DPS, it's a lot more. For healers, it's a little bit less. But this is it's a pretty time-consuming fight, all considering. So here, Cries of the Void is going off, and this is where I have my immunity saved specifically for these moments, so that way I don't take the extra sanity damage, because it would be massive otherwise. So most importantly, you just want to make sure that you don't get caught up in dumb tricks because of the amount of HP this guy has. And even with tank damage, it's still going to take a while to get through this fight. So as you can see, I'm now at 2/3 sanity, despite having started with a full bar that was running at the time. No additional ads come out, so this is it. There's no gift that's going to save me. I gotta take this guy down before I do. But I'm looking pretty good. Time actually after watching this, time seemed to be going a lot slower when I was doing this. But I'm not even at half my sanity left, and I'm in a good spot. This is the home stretch, guys. You just got to try and stay focused. And this is it. Get some. And there we go. 5 masks, 5 chests, finito. This was a lot of fun. In retrospect, as some feedback to Blizzard, the encounter as a whole was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. It was great to master. I'm eager to try out Stormwind, and I know that's going to be a little bit tougher. I still think that having limited tries per week is kind of a pain, but that's what makes the victory all that more thrilling once you finally get through it. So I'm glad that I was able to get it as early as I did. And I think that is just about it. I think right at the moment I'm just kind of like, taking a couple deep breaths before I open up chests. So I'll skip to that in just a bit. But otherwise, thanks guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks for going on this journey with me. We got one more to go. We just got Stormwind, and that'll be it. I guess I'll do the chests here right now. So stay tuned for that one. I do plan on kind of doing the same thing. There's no need for me to do 4 chests in Stormwind. I'm just going to go straight for 5. But I have very few tries left, so it's probably going to take me a little while to get a complete run of this. But this, I believe, was my 3rd, maybe my 4th attempt at a 5 chest, 5 mask, and I got it. This is it. So you guys have a good one. I'll see you guys for Stormwind. Yeah, I'll see you there. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.